What is up, guys? Welcome to Cap the Cage. As you can see, it's just me and Pat today. Our guy Harry is not with us. He's recovering from I forgot what it was called, like a kneecap injury from MMA training. So with the guys over at Saralongo, and hopefully he recovers soon so we can have him back at full strength. We're not sure if we're gonna get what was it Liam Pics fights with us today. I think we had a scheduling conflict with him. But we'll see if he pops in. He'll obviously be a great addition to the show today. So right now it's just gonna be me and YBB. Obviously I'm your host, but YBB is the guy that we're really gonna dive in with here in the slate. You're gonna see me come in with them amateur angles, but YBB will come in with the pro angles for these fights here. Vegas UFC Vegas 70. That's where we're gonna be looking at today. I actually I feel like we're gonna be aligned on some of this stuff. What I'm trying to do really is Pat is really learn from you and Harry and all these other guys and kind of see where I can go from like an amateur MMA better into your guys' world. And what I'm doing, how I'm doing that is really kind of learning from you guys on how you guys speak the language, the terminology, and then so for every card, every the next weekend, I try to pick my plays before I even hear from you guys at all, based on some of the things that I'm looking at, and also some of the some of just the statistics. 'Cause I'm more data driven, right? So I look at the statistics, I look at that type of stuff, and see how it compares to what you guys say after the fact, because you guys know the fights more, you guys see it a little bit better than I do. So that's where I kind of want to grow from the start of the show till the end of the year, or as we continue going. But so far things have been going really well. We're up a good chunk of units here. I'm gonna bring up the screen while we recap here how things have been going our last few shows, and we're up 6 units, 9, 8, and 1, but our average odds is in the plus side, and that's the reason why we've been winning for the most part, man. We could have been up in the last in the last UFC fight night if we went the full unit with Sadakov. I think we really wanted it to get there. Ended up going a 3/4 unit there. Glad we stayed half unit with the William Knight look. But other than that, I mean, we like the Blanchfield look there. This one was, I feel like, I don't know, the under 2.5. I feel like we had the right look there. It just didn't happen for us. And then Askabov was the one that kind of tricked us. I feel like we after the fact we were like, all right, we're never gonna do something like that again with this type of fighter. We kind of looked at it. We talked about it. We said, all right, who did he really fight, right? And that's the way that we kind of looked at it. But I think we're expecting, because if he started training with top notch teams, that we were
Yeah.
expecting him to be able to come through, right? But that didn't happen. What is your kind of takeaways from last week?
Takeaways. Askabov is a bum, number one. Secondly, William Knight, golly, man, what an awful performance. He didn't throw any strikes at all or even like attempt.
Yeah,
And then lastly, Jordan Wright just being so comfortable in the clinch, going the distance. Nobody really saw that coming. Everybody was expecting a finish. Jordan Wright, William Knight both get cut shortly after their losses this past weekend. Both 205ers. Might as well just have them fight each other in a different promotion or something. I mean, it was awful.
yeah,
I want to thank Matt Frivola for giving us that the inside the scoop on Sadikov to
Sadakov,
win in round
yeah.
three. I think that was awesome.
Sure, he even
Uh,
called Blanchfield. He even
yeah,
called
he called
Blanchfield.
Blanchfield too. I loved Blanchfield last weekend. I mean, I understand the Jessica Andrade hype, but I really loved Blanchfield. That was
Mhm.
like my favorite spot for the entire card. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
week is a little bit different. The fighters are a little bit more unknown. A lot of Dana White Contender Series fighters.
yeah,
Um, so the value may not be as apparent as it was in last week's card or even next week's card.
yeah.
So this is a good card to be a little bit more cautious, I guess. Um, so I mean, yeah, overall though, you can say that the name value is not there, but you can also say that the matchmaking is pretty solid for the card. Even
Yeah.
last week, the matchmaking was good, but it just the fights didn't quite deliver or live up to expectation. So
I feel like
Hopefully
there's
the
gonna be a
pace is a
lot
little bit
more
better.
action with the card this week. I feel like when I was doing some research, there was a lot of like first round finishes within their records and early finishes to be honest in a lot of the fights. So that was kind of the way that I was looking early on in this fight is if they continue in that direction, both fighters kind of that's what I want to ask you as someone that is kind of learning the MMA game is when you see two fighters who consistently fail to go the distance, is that something that we continue to kind of follow that trend or do we kind of look the opposite direction or do we kind of look at the line and see where it's at because most likely he's going to be super juiced, right?
I think you have to look at the styles. And that's why I'm mad at myself for betting on the Alex Hernandez under because now it makes a little bit more sense. While Jim Miller doesn't have the cardio, in order to fight and compete with somebody like Alex Hernandez, you need to be a counter puncher on your back foot, countering, and you can't slip up or make any mistakes. And I think he did a okay job. I mean, he survived to go to the distance.
Yeah.
Secondly, Jordan Wright, he's a finisher, right? He's kill or be killed. He ended up going the distance. Nobody saw that coming either. So I think a lot of these fighters adjust to the style of opponent that's at hand. So playing unders, you just have to kind of look at the style and the matchup that they have presented in front of them, and how they're
Gotcha.
going to win that fight. Are they going to gas themselves looking for the finish? So there's a lot of questions, I guess, in playing totals and unders. I like
Yeah.
a lot of the unders this week. Especially with Dana White Contender Series debutantes coming in, I do think that we will get some finishes because those are the guys who don't learn from the finishes and they also go for it as well. So,
Yeah.
um,
The one thing to note too, YBB and both of us really touch on SDQL. Give me the dog is going to start providing SDQL data, and that's where we can really dive into the styles because that's part of the parameters is really style versus style. Uh, is some of the parameters in there, so we can dive into it, and we're going to be able to see it. Is it true that striker versus grappler or whatever it might be, striker versus striker, should be you know more ITD than anything. We'll see that. I can't wait for that stuff to pop off and be able to be available for us.
oh
Right
yeah,
now, the predictive side isn't really there, but we can see stuff. You got to create the tables and things like that. But hopefully, we add in the SDQL portion to the show moving forward when it is available. But let's get into the fights. First one. Oh my god, I still have my NBA stuff. All right, first one up. Ode Osborne and Charles Johnson. I'm gonna bring up my screen here and start sharing. Boom. So we got Osborne 5'7", Johnson 5'9". The reach though is on the Osborne side. It's pretty similar in age. Weight right now, what it's showing is Osborne's a little bit heavier striker versus striker. Um, record wise, 11-5 for Osborne, Johnson 3-3. You can see a lot of the fights on Osborne's side have been finishes, right? 9 of their 11 wins were finishes. 4 of their 5 losses was by finish. On the opposite side, though, you do see some decisions here. 7 of his 16 fights have gone the distance here. The way that I was looking at it, Osborne has finished his 6 UFC fights, and then Johnson coming off a nice first round knockout over Jimmy Flick. This was what I was kind of asking, right? Like if they finish continuously, do we kind of look in that direction? That's kind of what I was looking at here. Was um actually more specifically Charles Johnson ITD here, and maybe we just look at him to win. What are your thoughts on this one?
I like Charles Johnson's money line more than I like a prop or a side, a specific method of victory in the spot, only because Charles Johnson is kind of a slower starting fighter. We saw him, win a questionable decision over Zuma Gulov. He goes the distance with Makayev in his debut, and
Mhm.
then he does knock out Jimmy Flick. But remember, Jimmy Flick was off a retirement, so Jimmy Flick came into that fight a little bit rusty. That
Yeah.
was a very easy and tune-up fight for Charles Johnson. In hindsight, he's a pretty tall flyweight, and on the flip side, you have the same kind of style fighter in Ode Osborne, who is also very long, lengthy, throws a jab, throws volume. He fights similar to Charles Johnson, but I don't think that Ode Osborne has that dog in him that Charles Johnson does. Ode Osborne, he's been dropped. He's been knocked out. His wins are aging horribly. Carlos Vergara, regional scene fighter at best. Jerome Rivera, cut from the UFC. Zaruk Adashev, cut from the UFC. So his wins are not particularly great. And even in those wins, Carlos Vergara specifically, he starts to fade. He starts to gas out. And the last thing you want to do is gas out against a guy like Charles Johnson. I think Charles Johnson puts the volume on him and ends up winning, but it's whether or not Charles Johnson is looking for that finish. So for all those reasons, I don't know exactly what's in his head or how he's going to play this fight. I think he's going to approach it accordingly. But when you have somebody who mimics the same body type as you and the same fight style, sometimes those fighters fight cautiously and they fight to rack up points and win that way. They don't want to put themselves in compromising positions. So for all of those reasons, I like the Charles Johnson side, but I couldn't give a method of victory with confidence. I think that there's more value in his money line number than there is a prop.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm seeing it here. I don't know what it opened up at, but I do see Johnson here, the best line for the favorite, -148. I was leaning in that direction. I think one of the things that I was looking at for the most part, reason why I was looking at Charles Johnson was some of the fights on the Osborne side. He was been able to, his 3 losses, I mentioned 3 of his 6 UFC fights he's lost, right? And all 3 of those losses were finishes in the first round. So I'm feeling, and then also when I look at Charles Johnson's side, he was able to finish someone within the first round as well. It's just something that I look at as far as like trend wise, right? And it's hard, right? Because with this stuff, they don't fight like they fight like every 6 months or whatever it might be. So it's not like we can continue to use these trends in that direction. But for the most part, if there's not a lot of change with the style of fight or anything like that, or where they're cheering at, it seems like it would be a consistent thing, right? Or is that something that you kind of put out the window and you got to just really focus on watching the fights?
Right. Yeah. And so it could be a consistent thing. So when you look at Ode Osborne's record, you see that he's either kill or be killed.
Yeah.
But he can learn a lot from that Tyson Nam recent knockout. He was a big favorite in that fight, actually. And he ended up getting knocked out off of, I believe it was a failed flying knee attempt. And then he got countered and dropped by Tyson Nam. He's not going to throw a flying knee in this fight. I can guarantee you that. So he is going to address and work on some things. And, you know, I mean, he can address it to where he fights smart. So I don't see consistency in a finish in this spot. But, yeah, sign me up for the Charles Johnson money line. I like that spot a lot. I like this matchup for him.
I like it. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. We got Jordan Levitt and Victor Martinez up here. The way that I was looking at it, so we got Levitt. He's a grappler, 10-2 record. He has the length and size on his side. Let me move here. He has the length and size here, right? 73-inch reach, 5'11". Not that much taller, but still the reach is pretty noticeable with the 3-inch reach there. Grappler versus striker for the most part here. 8 of 13 wins have been by KO for Martinez. So obviously really just focused on the striking there versus the sub. No subs at all. But he has been able to get subs in his losses. 2 subs there. 9-1. Levitt is coming off of the loss to Patty. Martinez first UFC fight off Contender Series. What are your thoughts on this one? I was thinking that we go towards Levitt here.
Man, this is my favorite play of the UFC slate. Like how Blanchfield was my favorite play last week.
Yeah.
Bonfim was my favorite play the week before that. Victor Martinez is my favorite play this week.
Oh,
I can't believe I know,
okay.
I know. And I see Levitt being the popular play. Is it because that he fought Paddy Pimblett? Maybe, I don't know. Is it because he has grappling? Maybe as well. But here's the thing with Jordan Levitt that I don't like. His striking needs a lot of work. And his takedowns, his single legs, when he shoots, it's all predictable. He makes it very clear when he's going to do it. He doesn't put a combo in front of any of his takedown attempts. Add that to the fact that Victor Martinez is training with CDF. CDF used to be a ranked lightweight, very good at scrambling, BJJ black belt. So you're telling me Jordan Levitt, a blue belt, is going to take down a black belt and submit him? Possible, maybe. Victor Martinez is grapple friendly. Am I a little bit biased that he trains at Fortis MMA up here in Dallas? Maybe. But also, I mean, he has bricks in his hands. This guy is very scrambly, and I think that he presents a lot of issues for Jordan Levitt. Levitt doesn't like being hit at the body. Victor Martinez throws hammers at the body. I think that he's going to finish and put Jordan Levitt out. There's just a couple of things that just don't really do it for me for Levitt. He got a KO win over Matt Wyman where he picked him up, slammed him down. He wins over Trey Ogden, who made his UFC debut, but Ogden fought like an idiot in that fight. So then he goes out there, he fights Paddy Pimblett. He made a pretty okay account of himself. I'm not going to say he looked bad, but I'm also not that high on Paddy.
Yeah.
Jordan Levitt, when you watch him fight with all his grappling, his top control, his pressure, his squeeze, he gasses himself out. And we saw that in the Claudio Puelles fight where he just kind of gassed himself out trying to scramble around. He was breathing very heavy. And this is not a fighter that I'm looking to back anytime soon. I mean, I know he's the Monkey King. He's marketable. He's a fun guy with personality, and he's awkward, and people like that. But I think Victor Martinez is the better fighter here. This is he's going to be my favorite guy to target this week. And you look at those submission losses on his record; those were from earlier in his career. Since then, he's been training with CDF. Like I said, you throw CDF in there with Jordan Levitt, I mean, it's going to be disaster. I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying that he is getting in those looks. So yeah, give me Victor Martinez for the win.
Gotcha. That makes more sense now that you break it down a little bit. I'm not really that high on Paddy either. I remember when we were collecting cards and Paddy was the hot shit when the Prism came out. It was a lot. It was really expensive, but ever since then it's died a lot. And I think it has to do with people finally figuring out that he really isn't who we all think he was supposed to be when he first came out. So makes a lot of sense there. All right, let's go on to the next one here. We got Mallet and Johan Lines. And this one, all right, so we have Lines at plus 192 here. I mean, similar size as far as height. The reach is 2 inches longer for Lines here. Current weight 170, 147. I don't understand why he's 147. Is that like his natural weight?
No, Mallet fought Mickey Gall his last time out. That was a welterweight fight, but Mallet has fought as low as featherweight before, which we'll talk about. Me and Harry align on this fight as well. So
yeah, so like I said earlier, I tried to look at these fights before I hear from anything from you guys, and the way that I was looking at it was towards Lioness. But it was funny because I was just looking at ITD in general, just like within the distance, right? Mallet 8-1-1, all wins, losses were finishes. Had a UFC fight on the Volkanovski Korean Zombie card. Had a first round KO over Mickey Gall there, and then on the other side, Lioness 9-1, 7 of his 10 fights have ended by knockout. So that's the reason why I was really looking just towards the ITD here, but I was also looking at some of the things at the line, at the number, and plus 192 seems like a good number, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on this one?
yeah, again, Johan throws hammers. Now, here's the argument that a lot of people have. They say Mike Mallet is going to have the grappling advantage, and I agree. Like, he's pretty scrambly, but let's not forget, this is a guy who lost at featherweight, 145 pounds. 25 pounds ago, he lost. He tried to grapple and submit, I believe it was Hakeem Dawodu. He ended up losing position, and he got himself finished in the first round. So when I look at that, it just doesn't translate to somebody who's walking around at 198. Like, you're telling me you're going to go fight a 198er off of a, featherweight fight. I mean, granted, this was years ago. He's taken some time off. He put himself in a great camp. And again, I still make him the favorite in this fight. I don't make him that big of a favorite in this fight. I think you're paying a tax and a premium to back Mike Mallet. Lionessa is not training at no slouch of a gym either. He's at TriStar MMA in Canada. He's working with one of the best strikers that the MMA doesn't even talk about. Who he's actually fought. He's on the Bellator roster. His name is Mandel Nalo. Now, if you look this guy up, beautiful striking, and he is he's going to be Lioness's striking coach for this fight, or he was. Lioness also, whenever he is taken down or whenever he is on the mat, he shows good ability to avoid submission attempts. If you look at Lioness's Dana White Contender Series debut, he ended up finishing that fight, and Justin Burleson threw up 4 submission attempts. My guy avoids all of them and ends up finding the knockout himself. Awesome. Now, the big concern with Lioness, which a lot of people are saying, is he's chaotic. He goes out there and just wings hooks. This is true. He packs power. He wings hooks, and putting 100% of your strikes into everything that you throw will gas you out. This is a fight where both fighters can gas out, but if you look at who's been a decision more and who hasn't, that all lies with Lioness. So if you're telling me Lioness is going to gas out, I don't know that Mallet, with his grappling advantage, is going to be the guy with the cardio advantage moving forward either. I like Lioness at the number. Again, Mike Mallet should be closer to minus 135. If you're telling me I'm getting about an 85 cents of value, you got to play the underdog. Me and Harry align on this fight. Again, training with Mando Nalo out of TriStar. You're getting good looks. You won a decision your last time out. I think that he can address and correct some lessons. And then let's not also forget Mallet's win over Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall's not a striker, guys. He is a jiu-jitsu guy. So whenever you won that fight and your face is all bloodied up, you're telling me a jiu-jitsu guy who has no striking background pieced you up like that? Imagine what Johan's going to do. A guy who walks around at 198, a guy who's at a good camp himself. I don't like that it's Canada on Canada crime, because these are the only Canadians in the welterweight division, and they just so happen to be matched up against each other. That sucks. But I mean, all in all, you got to go with Johan here at the odds. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Johan. I do see reason to back the under. Excuse me, but I think Johan is a great dog play to target this week.
Yeah, maybe I do. I like that play. I also, maybe we look at the odds for the under as well, just to see if it's a decent enough number.
I think fight doesn't go the distance would be a good parlay piece to add, but I am expecting it to be juiced. So,
okay. Let's look at. All right, so I think we're aligned there, for the most part on the line, on Lioness there, and also Harry mentioned it too. What did Harry say about Levitt and Martinez?
He likes Levitt as well, but yeah, my favorite play is Victor Martinez. It sucks. It's going to be unpopular, I know, but I just don't see it with Jordan Levitt, man. He's skinny and one of those skinny guys who doesn't eat body shots very well. And Victor Martinez throws some hammers.
Yeah,
I like this guy. So,
all right, let's go on to the next one then. Sakai versus Maze. I think if I remember correctly, Harry did like this one too. Sakai 15-5-1, Maze who's 9-5. Sakai on a 4-fight losing streak here, but he lost to 4 strong fighters, in my opinion. There, Maze on the other hand has lost 3 of his 5 fights. His first fight in the UFC was a loss to Cyril Gane. Leaning towards Sakai here. That's the way that I always think. Maybe even look towards the ITD inside the distance, depending on the number. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Sakai's been fighting monsters, man. He fought Sergey Pavlovich. He fought Biggie Boy. He fought Tai Tuivasa, Alistair Overeem. He was winning that Overeem fight, by the way, until it got to championship rounds. Mm-hmm. So, Sakai is a guy who he mixes it up pretty well. He's been on his back foot. The only thing with this fight that I have a problem with is you cannot cap confidence. You don't know where this guy's head is at after being knocked out 4 times.
Yeah.
This guy reminds me a lot of somebody else in the division, and I'm mad we didn't get this fight instead. Hang on one second. Chris Daukaus. Daukaus is also a heavyweight who's on a little bit of a skid, but they fight so similarly. I am mad we didn't get that fight. That would have been a banger of a fight because they both are kind of counter punchers, but they can put together combos very nicely, but they both also have a problem in getting put down on their butt. Would have been a great fight. Now, this one's a little bit different. So you got Maze on one hand, who big-bodied guy who has a little bit of wrestling credential, long reach. He has power in his hands a little bit. But I don't know that he's a good mixed martial artist. I just think that he's brute strength. He's brute strength and just a big guy, and those fighters exist. But if this fight gets extended, I do think that I like the Sakai side. Sakai doesn't have to cut as much weight as Dontel Mays. I like his volume, his striking. I think the way that you beat Dontel is you put the pressure on him. Sakai can't be a counter striker in this fight. But also Sakai, I think, is the better all mixed martial artist. When this fight first opened up, like the odds, I was expecting Sakai to be closer to minus 175. But I think the market is low on him because he's been knocked out so many times. And again, you can't cap confidence. How is
Yeah.
he going to approach this fight? Is he going to go out there, wing hooks, get taken down and knocked out again? It's possible, but at the same token, Dontel Mays is not he's not the smartest heavyweight himself. So, I mean, his highlight reel is humping some guy's face. Like, that's literally his highlight reel. So, yeah, man, I gotta go with Sakai. I hope Harry is aligned on that, but I think that he would be the rightful favorite and the right side in this fight. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I like Sakai here. That would be the way that was.
it just sucks that you can't cap confidence from these fighters when they enter a fight after being knocked out. Like
Yeah.
Chris Dawkins, I use him as an example because this is a guy that I like to back, but you can see his confidence kind of depleting every fight that he goes out there. But he's also getting these heavy hitters. This guy fought Derek Lewis, Biggie Boy. Like, he's going out there and Curtis Blades. Come on, man. Like, that's murder's row. He wins a couple fights and that's who he fights. Like, that just goes to show you how shallow the heavyweight division is.
Yeah.
So
the one thing too, Pat, is like, we talk about like the line really telling a story. If you think about it, like, he lost 4 fights in a row, all by KO, and now you're telling me he's a favorite against anyone? Like, it just seems like they matched it up in a way for him to get this win.
I think this is a very winnable fight. Now, when you look at this too, and we've talked about this on cards before, when you have these fighters that are on losing streaks and that they don't want to get cut from the UFC, expect a better performance out of them. Dontel doesn't really have much to lose out of this fight. His last fight got overturned because while he lost it, that guy got popped for, I think, steroids or something. So this is a tune-up fight for Sakai, and this is I have nothing to lose fight for Dontel. The bigger picture here is that I like Sakai. I like them at minus 110. I bet on him. I'm a little bit scared. But when I look at it from the outside, I just think that he has a little bit more advantages. Mays is going to get a takedown. Sakai doesn't just stay on his butt, though. Like, he tries to get up. And that Sergey Pavlovich fight, yeah, he got taken down a lot, but he also showed glimpses of trying to get back up. So I don't think Mays is even half the grappler that Sergey is. So, yeah, give me Sakai for the win.
Let's do it. I like that one. Let's move on to the co-main here, Muniz and Allen. This one, I talked to you about this before when we first started talking about the show, but I was initially looking towards Allen, and when I did more research after the fact, I kind of wanted to stay off here. But what are your thoughts on this one? I mean, both of them pretty well. I mean, they got a lot of experience under the belt. I know there's a big gap in age, but if we look at, I mean, he has 25 fights already at a young age, in my opinion, 27 years old, if that's correct. Then you got 27 fights here on Muniz side. A lot of subs on both sides here. Well, what are your thoughts on this one? I like I said, I was initially looking towards Allen, but now I'm not really too sure.
Yeah, I kind of again, this is the price on Brendan Allen just looks so good. I got trapped by it. I bet on it.
You did?
But
okay.
There's a part of me that thinks that this could be the right number, and I think it's an accurate number. Brendan Allen, he's also a BJJ black belt. I think he can give a little bit of fits to Andre Muniz. Muniz, I didn't like his last fight. Everybody thought, oh, he's going to get a sub ITD. He fought a 37-year-old washed Uriah Hall. I'm sorry, Uriah. Another guy who trains at Fortis MMA up here. But he didn't finish him, and Uriah was already checked out. Uriah already had plans to not be in the UFC. That was his last fight. Those are guys you got to get out of there. You finish those guys. Usually you finish them, they leave their gloves in the octagon, and they go on to a different promotion. Muniz didn't finish that fight, and it was juiced for him to finish. He's juiced to finish this fight too, but I don't see it happening. So I think that this fight goes the distance. I think Brendan Allen can compete on the mat a little bit. He is going to get taken down, but as long as this fight stays standing, I think Allen can give Muniz some fits. Also, Brendan Allen, He's 6-0 against southpaws. Andre Muniz is a southpaw striker. Brendan Allen training out of Syndicate MMA. This guy's striking combos have been looking better and better every single fight. Sanford MMA, I'm sorry. This guy can put together some good, decent striking combos. He mixes it up well. He throws knees. He throws hooks. He can jab nicely. His kicks are getting better. Coming into the UFC, he was a BJJ guy. He wasn't really a striker, and you can see improvements every single fight. Now, if you go through his list, look at those odds that you see. -300, like the recent fights.
Yeah.
So he's being priced like he should be winning these spots, and he is. Yeah. Not only that, Brendan Allen is also, I believe, 5-1 or 6-0 as an underdog. And now we're getting him at underdog odds against the guy who is great at grappling, but not the best at striking. He is good at takedowns, but not the best at cardio. Yeah, this fight, I mean, there's a lot of variables here. I like the over. The more I look at it, I think another way to target this fight is fight goes the distance at 2-1. I love that. I like that spot even more so because I think Muniz is durable enough to take the striking from Brendan Allen, but I don't know that he has the cardio to extend Brendan Allen and try to finish him in the later round. So,
gotcha.
This is going to be a grapple-friendly fight, though. It's a great fight. But again, there is a chance that Muniz does look like a 2-1 favorite. But there's also a chance that Brendan Allen just spoils everybody's party and wins. So,
yeah.
Again, I was trapped by the number. Whenever you see numbers on fighters, sometimes it's easy to bite the bait. I call this one of those fights where I bit the bait. And I'm not like happy about it, but I'll also live with it. I'll live with the result because, you know, Brendan Allen, he makes a good account of himself as an underdog. He has a great camp behind him. He's been priced accordingly. And now, yeah, I mean, Andre Muniz, this is a rightful matchmaking bout, you know. Solid matchmaking. But I just think that, you know, the odds here just lean me towards the Allen side of things.
Yeah.
Right,
so
but again,
we'll look at fight goes the distance to see where that line is. But
I like that spot.
Yeah, I was like I said, dude, I was leaning Allen initially, and then more research I did, I was just like, all right, I think I'm gonna stay off here. All right, looks like we got Liam Pics size. Hey, appreciate you hopping on here. We're almost
absolutely. What's going on, gentlemen? How are you?
Doing good, man. How are you, Liam?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain. Very busy day today. I'm actually doing a show myself at about 3:45, but had to make sure that I came on and stopped by, spoke with the boys, and see if there's any insights that I could potentially offer.
All right.
Yeah, so we just started. We're kind of closing in on this co-main here with Muniz and Allen. Did you have any thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, these guys are on opposite ends of the spectrum for me, funny enough. On the one hand, Andre Muniz is my most profitable fighter on this card by far. I've basically been betting on him his whole UFC journey. I've made a lot of money doing so. I think I had 4 bets on the Bartosz Fabinski fight, and all of them cashed. It was like sub in round 1, round 1, and Muniz on the money line. So I was all in on this guy. He's a jiu-jitsu head's like dream. This guy is just fantastic. And I was telling people before the Jacare fight, I thought it was going to be a knockout because Jacare was a little bit washed there, but I also thought that he was live to win by sub. I didn't think he was going to break his damn arm, but he was the first and only man to ever submit Jacare in MMA. So Andre Muniz is the truth on the ground. I think that based on everything I saw on tape, Brendan Allen is going to get submitted in this fight. However, I've been wrong about Brendan Allen a bunch of times. I thought he's going to lose to Puna. I thought he was going to lose to a few guys. I kind of got fraudulent vibes from him, and he's done much better than I expected. Even Jotko, I thought was going to be a lot more competitive there. So for all intents and purposes, 2 guys on opposite ends of the spectrum for me, but overall, I have to favor Muniz. I think he's just a more dangerous fighter in his area. I think that Brendan Allen by knockout was mispriced a little bit at plus 900. That's come down a little bit. Muniz, all his losses are by knockout in his career, 4 of them. Most of the time it's from getting a little bit tired and getting hurt. But, I think also people kind of dismiss the fact that those losses were to Azamat Murzakanov and then in 2013. So it's like the guy hasn't really done much losing lately. He's just been beating people and making it pretty clinical.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Ronald, I don't know if you know, but Azamat Murzakanov is an absolute monster of a fighter. That guy, he's undefeated. That guy he's crazy. You should watch some of his fights. Had like a flying knee knockout his last time out.
Yeah, I'll look
and
into
that made me a lot of money too.
Yeah, that was a sketchy fight though. That was pretty scary, but he did get.
I was
where's he
very
fight out of?
worried, and then I was like, I knew it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Where's he fight out of?
He's in
somewhere in New Jersey, but he's a Russian cat for sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he fights maybe with Mark Henry and those guys. I'd have to look, but he definitely fights out of somewhere in Jersey.
He has I think he has a fight schedule too, but yeah, he's a fighter to watch out for sure.
There's a lot of beasts out there in the Northeast, like
Yeah.
like New Jersey, New York, and in that area.
But
yeah, go ahead.
East Coast, Aaron Blanchfield in the building. Stand up.
Yes, we were on Aaron last week too, man. Matt Frivola actually he gave us that little inside scoop on that, so that was really cool. We loved Aaron last weekend.
Oh, dude, very good spot last weekend. You probably won't see her at plus money again unless it's in a title fight.
That's what I said.
And I think the other thing that was crazy is just like, how are you pricing her as like plus 115 and then her submission odds are plus 300? It's like she's one of the most dangerous submission grapplers in women's MMA. I felt confident saying that before the fight. I feel even more confident saying it after the fight. So she's going to continue to be dangerous. I don't think anybody wants to sign that fight right now.
Great point. I'm going to bring something up, Ronald, really quick to Liam. But yeah. Liam, I went, so it's interesting that you brought up the Muniz sub line that you think Brendan Allen's going to get submitted. The way that I saw it is when I look at fighters, I look at progression and momentum and upside. And I think Brendan Allen fits the script in the aspect that he's still a young fighter. He's teachable. He's coachable. You look at him every single time out. This guy's striking is looking better and better every single fight. Even in the Chris Curtis fight where he got knocked out, you know, his striking looked good up until that fact. You can't train a chin, but you sure as hell can address, getting taken down, by Jacob Malkoon. You can address a lot of these things. I think he's like 25, 26 maybe. But he's a young cat. This is a fight where I was like, you know what? Brendan Allen coming to this fight, he's going to expect to be put on his butt. He is going to have to grapple. He can grapple. He can fight off of his back. But I think that the longer that this fight gets extended, I think it favors Brendan Allen. I'm not saying that there's value on his number, but I do like it to go to decision. I like the decision prop at 2-1 odds. That's just my take. It's going to be super unpopular, but we've seen Muniz go to decision before, and we've also seen Muniz in spots where he should finish fights end up gassing himself and going the distance anyway. And we saw that with a washed Uriah Hall, who was already checked out before even going to that fight. That was his last fight in the UFC. And I hate saying that about Uriah, but,
Can I make my quick defense of
Go ahead.
finishing Uriah Hall? And I'll tell you, that cost me about $1,000. I had a very small wager on, I think it was Jalen Turner, Julija Stoliarenko, and Muniz sub in round 1. And the other two hit. And I thank God I did have those on a separate lay. But I had them all three together. And I was like, of course it's the one that's chalked that doesn't come through. Like the two that are plus 500, plus 750, those are no problem. And then my boy Muniz can't go do the job on Uriah Hall. But in fairness, Uriah Hall kind of knew what to expect. He knew that he's not a guy who's going to take your back and try and choke you most of the time. He's an armbar like king. He is like the best arm. He probably has the best armbar in the UFC by a considerable margin. He broke Jacare's arm with like an inverted, armbar that most people wouldn't even try to pull off. So he's extremely dexterous there. He's tricky there. And that I think is where Brendan Allen, it's not like he doesn't get in compromised grappling situations. It's that he gets out of them. He keeps rolling. He keeps moving. He keeps scrambling. You get in one kind of situation like that with Muniz, you might break your arm. You might just get in a sticky situation that you can't get out of. And I felt like Uriah Hall knew if I don't do anything, he's content to just ride me out. And I'm just here to get the money. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to make this guy angry. I'm going to hold on to him. I'm going to try and look for my spots to get out. And that's what he did. No harm, no foul. But this is a guy who's really confident in himself, and Brendan Allen. He's going to go out there. He might think, I'm going to out-grapple Muniz. And then I think he'll get submitted in the first round. If that happens. Yeah. If he's smart and mature here, and he goes out and sprawls and brawls and tries to keep it upright and keep it long, I think one of his tools that's really effective is to teep to the body in terms of strikes that get to Muniz. Because we were talking about he doesn't have the greatest gas tank in the world. I think that the value per se would be on Muniz early and then potentially Brendan Allen late. Like you said, maybe going to a decision. I think in a decision-only market, Brendan Allen's a little bit more competitive because he could come on strong in the second and third round. He is the guy who's going to look for more intentional damage, you'd have to think, throughout the fight. But just in terms of positional awareness and skill, I think that Andre Muniz is a step ahead of him, and Brendan Allen might catch up eventually, but these are the kind of steps in the road where if Kevin Holland is taking your back in the first round, Andre Muniz might clean you up.
I agree. I like that.
So that would be like would you think about like a live spot in that situation if it does get past the first round, then look towards Brendan Allen in that sense, or do you think you kind of just stay off in general if that doesn't happen in that first round?
I think that that's probably a good way to play it if you have good access to live numbers. I don't always get the best access. Like sometimes I don't get it on my books or they come through late and I'm now not getting access to the number I'd want. When people on live stream are telling me they get better numbers, this kind of thing. New York's a little finicky that way, but for all intents and purposes, I think live entering on Brendan Allen's not a bad strategy. But that being said, his only loss by submission was in the second round in his career. For whatever that's worth, I do think that, Muniz 13 out of 15 career submissions are in the first round. The other 2 are in the second round. So he's pretty intentional about getting after it early. Once the fight gets extended, it's harder to submit somebody, period. It's just people are sweatier. They can move more. They can, just make it harder to pull off, especially something like a joint manipulation where you really need that tight space. You can't really have any looseness of the arm or somebody can try and yank it out. And oftentimes that's what you see in an MMA fight. So I think that for all intents and purposes, Muniz in the early going is the most dangerous, and all of his attacks will turn into trying to hold position, trying to hold the body lock and just be stingy if the fight gets extended. And he could still win a decision that way, make no mistake. But I think that you made a great point, Gerhart, about the fight going to decision. That could be a great way to target some upside on Brendan Allen. If you think he's going to defend the subs here, you could get the plus money value. And that's what Muniz will do as a plan B. He's not going to be like, all right, let me strike it out. He's 4-4 career to the knockout. Like things don't go great when he just stays on the feet with people. But when he takes it to the ground, he's extremely dangerous.
I like
Love it.
I know you got to cut out soon, so maybe we just grab your take on the main here with Krylov and Spann. I know, so both guys here on a 2-5 win streak. If we look at Krylov's like more recent fights, his most recent stint with UFC, he's been fighting some beasts, and you can kind of see why he got those losses. On the other side, Spann coming off 2 straight first round knockouts here. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, to be extremely brief on this one, I think that both guys are extremely dangerous. I think both guys have elements of their game that would really concern me when it comes to laying chalk. And that's really the thing. I'm historically a very profitable light heavyweight bettor, in part because I'm very averse to chalk, just as like a general strategy. I've done it a few times at light heavyweight with Yuri and a couple other spots, but it's greasy even when it works out for you. I laid Yuri against Glover and I was having a heart attack, so it's like, there are these kind of things where you can't get overextended at light heavyweight. Nikita Krylov been on a good run, but against who? And you can say the same thing about Ryan Spann. It's light heavyweight after all. There's a lot of sour grapes in the bunch where if you really look close, you're like, wow, that's kind of spoiled. Alexander Gustafsson hasn't had a win since 2018. It's like, what are we doing in terms of getting ahead of ourselves on the hype train? But Nikita Krylov has looked better in this return to the UFC. He's kept it competitive. He's gone to decision with some guys that are talented. So it's a hard fight to call. I would say that the upside is potentially on Ryan Spann as an underdog here. I just think he's a dangerous fighter. He's got huge power in his hands. He's got some submission upside as well. If a light heavyweight fight is being priced to end in the first 1.5 rounds, I think both of the guys are live to do it. Both of them are dangerous. But I've seen Nikita Krylov make the same mistakes a million times in his career in terms of head positioning and things like this that can get you caught. Even when he was dominating Paul Craig, found a way to lose. It's like, I just think that there's reasons to be skeptical of him at a chalk price. So for me, that's my take on the fight. I think this Spann's live as an underdog.
I like it. That's kind of the way that I was leaning here. Yeah. What do you think, YBB?
Best of luck, gentlemen. I got it bounced.
Oh, yeah. Hey, appreciate you, Liam. Hopefully next time you come on, we have a better idea of your schedule here, so we don't get the scheduling conflict. But love your takes, man. Hope you come back on again soon.
Absolutely. It was a blessing. Thank you, gentlemen. Take care. Be well.
Later, man.
Peace.
Yeah, he brings up some great points. Fortis MMA, baby. Listen, I could tell you firsthand, Ryan Spann he's the man, dude. So again, upside momentum. I'm gonna say that lies with Spann. Spann has the upside. He does have the momentum. He hasn't been a favorite since he fought Sam Alvey. This guy has been on a tear. I mean, he's always been counted out, and he's been proving us why he should be counted in. He does keep fights competitive. He has a nasty choke. Even in his Dana White Contender Series fight, he wasn't supposed to win. He was like a plus 500 underdog or something ridiculous. Wins that fight. Guess what? He chokes somebody who actually grapples. So this guy, he can put it together. He's very slept on. He has slick striking. The one concern, yes, it's his chin. His chin is a little bit iffy. He can't get countered, but I have no doubt in my mind that working with Saif Saeed, that he's going to address a lot of the striking attacks thrown by Krylov. Krylov is what I like to call in a fighter controlled chaos. He goes out there and he's chaotic. He mixes it up, but he's controlled in those attacks. He mixes it up pretty well, but at the same time, he mixes it up pretty well for about 5 minutes. After that, he becomes predictable. He becomes beatable. He becomes basically a deer in headlights. You could say the same thing about Spann all you want, but, other than like the chin issues and probably the first half of the fight, I do think that this guy can grapple for rounds. I mean, this guy's getting in work with Kennedy and Zechiku, another light heavyweight over at Fortis MMA. So he's getting good looks. And if you don't know who Kennedy is, this guy is huge. He's massive. He could be a heavyweight. Dude's big. So to be grappling with this guy day in, day out, getting ready for this kind of camp, you're getting ready for somebody like Krylov, who is going to stick his neck in bad positions. Krylov makes questionable mistakes. He's been submitted, I believe, 6 times. I think Spann by submission is a live look. Yeah, I have to. I gotta go with Spann on this one, and I get the love for Krylov because he mixes it in well. He is, I guess you could say, on the upswing of things, but like Liam said, how much stock can we put in a win over Alexander Gustafsson? I think none really. Gustafsson's washed. I mean, you could put a lot more stock into the wins that Ryan Spann has put in, So I don't know, man. I like the momentum and I like the upside on the Spann part of things. So I'm going with Ryan.
It. Yeah, I mean, like I sent you my list before we started talking, and I think we've agreed on a few of them, and Spann is one of them. I think I like the spot here as well. I know, like I said, I mean, he's fought like some big guys here, Magomed, Glover. These are guys that we we've been seeing win for the most part of the last few years, but that's kind of like that was a few years ago, and it seems like he hasn't been really in that position to fight really like beasts lately. So I think the wins here, would you say he was supposed to win these fights, these last 2?
I just think that he exceeded expectations. Oh, you're talking about Krylov or Spann?
Yeah, Krylov. Because like he's coming off 2 wins, right? I understand the side of Spann here. I just don't understand why he's like I don't understand why it's not closer to even.
Yeah, here. And that's where I price the fight. I price it at evens, so therefore I think that there's value on the underdog more so than the favorite. I'm trying to understand why he's that much of a favorite, and I think that it has to do with him mixing it up well. I'm not too sure.
See, that's my question is like, are these fights here that he took, he won? All right, so he KO'd Gustafsson, right? And then he went the distance here with Volkan. Like, are these things that should have happened, or did, like you said, or is it the exceeding expectations? I mean, it's hard to say he exceeded expectations when he was a favorite here, but it went the distance. You know what I mean? Like, I still don't understand why the line is at where it's at.
Scroll through his list and look at that return on investment though for him, like minus 200. Okay, plus 275 against Magomed. I think Jamal Hill is going to be a plus 270 dog against Magomed.
Yeah,
this guy doesn't really like perform well under like bright lights like that. So he wins in spots. Yeah, I guess that he's supposed to. He's supposed to win this fight according to the odds. Spann, I think, is going to find the finish. I think that he gets a submission here. I think he might even wrestle himself and find an arm triangle choke. That's my hot take of the week, actually. I wish I could bet it, a specific sub prop, but I don't rate Krylov's ground game very well. I mean, he tries to get top control over certain guys. He can wrestle a little bit. He can mix it up. But again, when you're doing all of this work, Most of his work is done in the striking department before he starts setting up any attacks on the ground. That fight with Volkan was a very easy stand-up fight for him where he didn't have to use and exert too much energy because Volkan also kind of on his way out, kind of on his last step in the UFC, kind of gave up after his title run. He just kind of doesn't care. He's there for a paycheck. You know, and he's a good striker himself, but that's the fight Krylov wants. Is just a nice little technical kind of a fight. I don't see anything technical about this fight. I think that you're going to go in there with somebody who has bricks in their hands and somebody who has underrated submission skills. I mean, I think Ryan Spann's submission game is slept on, to say the least. So
yeah, makes sense to me. Like if you look at the ratio of like win loss or his sub versus KO, I mean, you're seeing it like a pretty decent ratio there, sub KO on his wins. So it seems like that's the way that he kind of prefers to go. And you can see that Krylov here, he's been sub 6 times in his history. So it makes sense to me. Like, but like we said before, right? Keep it simple. It seems
keep
like
it
just taking
simple.
the money, keep taking that money line at plus 150 might be the way to just continue doing that.
I also want to mention that Krylov's record, it'll show all these finishes like sub, TKO. This is his second stint in the UFC. He was cut the first time for a reason. This guy is like, he just has a little bit of a questionable IQ sometimes. So, I mean, yeah, he's younger. He can grow. He can learn from it. But I just see the same mistakes happening in this fight. So,
No,
I don't know. Maybe a biased pick, Fortis MMA, Dallas guy. I gotta go with Spann, and I'm not seeing a lot of people take Spann, so it was reassuring to see Liam say that he's the value side too. So
I like it. I like it. That's the way that I was leaning to as well before talking to you guys. So it makes sense to me. One thing I know, I think you were talking about some other fight in a different promotion that you wanted to drop as well, right?
the number one fighter out of Peru, baby. Sandra Lovato. She's going to be fighting PFL Challenger Series. She should be a plus 295 underdog. That number might be gone. She takes on Shanna Young. Sandra Lovato. There you go. Yeah, she's going to take on Shanna Young. Shanna Young was cut from the UFC promotion. This girl has never put it together. She's not really great at anything. She has the UFC name under her belt, which makes her a massive favorite in this fight. Minus 385 for Shanna Young. Wild. That's crazy. I'm going to go with Sandra Lovato. I like her striking. She fought on the Dana White Contender Series. She lost it, but she was fighting a wrestler. And also, Sandra Lovato, she's undefeated at flyweight. This is a flyweight bout. Sandra Lovato, she cuts too much weight and she'll lose against these straw weights. I know it sounds silly, but whenever you're cutting that much weight, the following day you feel a little bit lightheaded and a little bit of like your cardio is not there. You have a little bit of trouble breathing. So weight cuts suck. She's not cutting that much weight. She's undefeated at flyweight. I think you're going to see her put it together and give Shanna Young a nice competitive bout. Shanna Young is a bigger girl who has had trouble making weight in the past. She's actually been removed from UFC cards before. She wasn't medically cleared in a couple bouts. I don't know what she brings to the table, to be honest. I got to go with Sandra at the odds. I think that you see that Shanna has fought in the UFC and people are like, oh my God, she has all the experience. Look at her UFC run, man. Like, congrats on the win over Gina Mazzani. We know what Mazzani is and who she is. Like, no, I gotta go with Sandra, man. I think that she gets right on track, and she could see herself in the Dana White Contender Series again for a tune-up fight. And I'll go with Sandra.
She fought this girl twice too, Miranda Maverick, lost both times. It's like she doesn't make the adjustments needed. All right, so okay, well that makes sense to me. I'm probably just gonna tell you with it.
Yeah, I have to. It's odds related for me.
Wait, did Harry say he liked the Lovato too?
No. I think Harry, he's looking at UAE Warriors right now. His boy Dennis Bazookia, shout out Dennis, I believe is fighting right now. So there was another reason why Harry wasn't going to be able to make the stream. So,
yeah, that's right. All right, let's go to our official bets then. It's gonna be tough since we don't have Harry here, but hopefully we get it done right for him. So first up, we talked about Osborne Charles. I think we were aligned here with Charles money line, right?
Yeah, I gotta go with Charles.
So we got money line. Man, it's kind of juiced now. We can get it at minus 160. What is this? 5 dimes. Minus 160 here. Do you want to go a full unit on this one?
I would, yeah. I think that there's a lot of advantages for Charles Johnson in this fight. I just think Ode Osborne's going to be a little too hesitant for my liking, and Charles Johnson's one of those fighters who he fights like I have nothing to lose. Fuck it. I love those style of fighters though. It's like he doesn't really care. So yeah, I like the value there.
We go the full unit there. This is the one where it gets tricky because we got me and Harry both like Levitt, and I know you like Martinez here. What do you want to do with this one? Do you want to just pass on it since we
it's probably best to pass, but Victor Martinez is going to be my top spot on my personal card.
Yeah, it sucks because you would always want to be in agreement with the top spot for sure.
Yeah, you would want to align. So for show purposes, because there is a little bit of disagreement, we don't have to play that. We could skip right over it. One fight we didn't talk about that I do like though. I like Jasmine Jasdevicius, but I would probably wait because you're probably gonna get a better plus money on her. That Gabriella girl
is gonna keep going in that direction.
Oh man, if it gets to like plus 120, I might have to put 2 units on it. I don't know. It's just I don't know where I really rate Gabriella. Her takedown defense is non-existent, and she doesn't know how to get up either. So
yeah.
That's one spot. We didn't really talk about it on the show though, so if you want to skip it, that's okay too.
Yeah, let's just skip it for now. Okay. I wasn't sure because I didn't really look into that one. I don't know. Did unless you know Harry that likes it. If you guys both agree, then I would say let's just add it.
I can't even remember what he liked. Okay. I know he likes Johan though, so
yeah, I know that for sure. So we just go with the money line here? I know that. So we were talking about the under, but the 2.5 is juiced. Fight inside the distance is juiced. 1.5, I just don't know if we could trust the 1.5 yet. But the money line, obviously, just keeping it simple, we can get it at plus 180.
That's where, I gotta say, what is Johan inside the distance? Do you know?
300. Or so if we just focus on the KO, 350, but inside the distance is only 50 cent difference. Just take the 300 if we like that. I feel like that's the way that I was leaning, dude.
That's the way to go. I feel like a half unit sprinkle on the inside the distance for the lioness side of things. I have to, man. And I understand why Mike Mallet is like the darling here. You know, great debut. That was really fun and exciting.
Do we think we just take half unit on the money line and half unit on the ITD? Or do we just take the ITD in general?
I would say that there's more value on the ITD than the money line. There's a chance here where he just completely gets submitted, but I would be more okay losing his TKO prop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be his path to victory, I would assume.
Let me back out. That's the wrong one. 300 inside the distance. We want to do that. We want to do that, right?
Yeah. Okay. I want to do that. Harry wants to do that. Harry, I think he likes TKO, but I mean, I would say TKO too, but I mean,
last time we did that with Luke Boomy and
last time we did that with Luke Boomy and look what she did. Pulled off a freaking submission. But I mean, I just think that the ITD is more attractive on the lioness side of things than it is Mallet. When you look at these fighters, you got to look at numbers. You got to relate to the numbers and the value side of things. So there's more value in perspective markets on Johan.
Do we take so the next one is Sakai? Do we just take the money line here at minus 120? We can get that at Pinnacle.
I'd say half a unit. I know Harry likes Sakai too, but this fight has like red flags all over it.
Yeah. So we go half unit there, 60 to 60. Right? Is that right? Half unit, minus 120.
Yeah, you're right. Minus 120 would be 60.
Okay, so we get Alan Muniz here. I know Liam said Muniz, but I was still leaning towards Brendan Allen at this number. But he made a lot of good points. I mean, as far as the grappling aspect of it, if he gets to that point, or do we look towards the fight goes the distance here at plus 180?
I think we skip it completely because I don't like the plus 180 number. I was hoping for something around plus 225.
Gotcha.
When the numbers don't match up with my pricing, those are spots where you don't have an advantage over the book. there's no point in forcing any action. So
Yeah.
at current market numbers, I just don't see any value either way. I think the books have it pretty sharp.
All right, and this one, Spann here, we got Spann. We can get it up to plus 155 at 5
Wow.
dimes.
Yeah, I
5
like Spann. Love
dimes.
Spann. That would be a full unit for
That's
me.
a full unit. Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
And yeah, I just want to talk about why though. It's because when you pricing fighters at minus 110 and you get a dog, that's a full unit 100% of the time. So yeah, give me a unit on Spann. Unpopular opinion, I know. I live with the result.
Do we, man? What? It's funny because you get, it says 155 for Spann, right? If we want him to win inside the distance, it's like only a few cents more. It's hella crazy. So it just makes a lot of sense to get the money line only and just stick to that, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Spann
Keep it, as Harry says, keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. Man, we got some crazy ass numbers here on this side though. Spann by sub, because I know you talked about that. Spann by sub 510. Like,
what is it? It's plus 510.
Yeah. Do you have any of these? Five dimes Unibet Betway?
No, I don't have 5 dimes or Unibet, but Jesus, that's a
yeah. You got plus 400s. There's a 500 and 510 here.
Yeah, that's those are good value. I do have Bet Online, Bovada, Jazz, MyBookie, Bet US, DraftKings, FanDuel, and Pinnacle.
All right, well, we got that there. Let's look at the final card before we cut out.
All right, let's do it.
We cap the cage. All right, so we got 4. We got Spann. Spann money line plus 155. Sakai money line half unit there minus 120. We got Linus inside the distance at plus 300. That's a half unit there to win 150. And then we got Charles Johnson at the full unit there. I like what we have here. I do.
Yeah, it's going to be a very simple, quiet card. There are going to be cards coming up where the books just have it pretty sharp, and then you have Dana White old people, and it just mixes in for a non-valuable card to force action. So overall, I would say that, the card itself, I like what we did, and I can live with this. This is good.
I like it. Keep it simple, stupid. We didn't go too crazy except for the Linus inside the distance, but yeah, I was gonna say it's not that crazy exactly. I like it. All right, well, that's it. Hopefully we bounce back after last week. We only went down less than even a half a unit last week, so it's nothing too crazy. Went off on the first two shows, so hopefully we get back on the winning ways here. Any last words before we cut out, Pat?
Yeah, no last words. Follow us at YBB Sports Data on Twitter. My personal handle is Gerhart YBB. I like to discuss MMA specifically on that channel. It's my favorite sport. It's the most genuine sport there is in the world. I can post as many trends, bet lab systems as I want on NBA, but it never really makes the sport a genuine sport. MMA will always and forever be the most goated sport. Thank you for having me on. I can't wait to talk about John Jones and Cyril Gahn next week.
I really hope Harry can get us Yanez too for that fight as well.
Well, Yanez would be down the road because he's a UFC 288 schedule, so he would be a little bit further down the road for sure. But
who do we have up next that we feel like we can bring on? When is the London one? I want to ask my friend to see if we can get Vittori on.
Vittori, oh wow,
yeah,
that would be cool. I'm not sure when the London one is. That'd be a cool guest to have though. Vittori is going to be a hard interview though, because from my understanding is his management kind of denies a lot of like questions and stuff. They don't allow interviews. Like James Lynch has a hard time getting him on the All-Star MMA. It's like he's kind of
one of my friends that I got cards from, one of the breakers. Vittori was actually at his place breaking cards with him and answering questions as he went. And it was during the Adesanya fight.
Wow. If you can get that interview, that'd be awesome. He has a fantastic fight coming up.
Yeah.
Roman Dolidze and him. But what doesn't make sense to me, they're both training at the same gym for this fight. I'll never understand it. Like,
that's another reason why I want to bring. Like, it'll be good to have him on, but we'll see if we can make that happen. Hopefully, we do. Hopefully, we continue to get more fighters on here because it was really dope to have Favola on last week.
Yeah, that was cool, man. All right, Ronald. Well,
Yep.
good luck on your NBA action. Good luck to us this weekend, and
Yes, sir.
can't wait to talk about the following card.
All right. Peace.
Later, man.